Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of cinema, back for more Enfuegotainment here. I'm Jaime En Fuego.
I'm Cecil Laird.
Yep, my running buddy, as often he is on both here and the Horror Show, a project that we do together besides this. But we are here today to discuss the greatest superhero of all time and possibly his greatest story ever told in some mindsets, at least as far as like a one-shot story. That's right, Batman the Killing Joke.
I want to talk. I've been thinking about you and me. About how this is going to end. About who will end up killing who. Perhaps you'll kill me. Perhaps I'll kill you. You know that, don't you?
Written by the great Alan Moore, amazingly, in fact. It is one of my all-time favorite Batman stories. What about you?
Top 3 for me, for sure.
Yeah, indeed.
And top 3 Joker stories as well.
Yeah, and there's such cool interplay between the two characters here. They explore the Joker origin story. Tim Burton actually drew heavily from this when he was making his late 80s film. The biggest surprise for me is that we thought we were getting The Killing Joke, but we ended up getting 2 movies. We got The Killing Joke,
It wasn't something very casually sewn on to The Killing Joke.
No,
this
not
was
at all. It was
hard cut, different story ahead of time.
It was a whole nother movie, in my opinion. And so, because of that, we're going to talk about...
2 episodes of the show, as it were.
We're going to talk about The Killing Joke, which basically started about maybe 45 minutes, maybe...
Oh, we're not going to talk about the prologue at all?
Well, maybe halfway through the movie. But, so, we're going to talk about the movie we expected to see, the movie that was advertised to audiences, and I know there was a little bit going here and there about, you know, there's some stuff at the beginning and they're trying to give Batgirl some more backstory, but we're going to talk about that at the end because it's the other movie that we didn't expect to see. So we're going to talk about The Killing Joke here, and on Enfuegotainment we always do the Bueno, the Malo, and the Feo, and so about halfway through this long piece that we watched written by Brian Azzarello, we got to The Killing Joke, the movie we expected to be receiving, and I actually saw lots of Bueno within this. I really did. You know, I'm going to start it off with the fact that I love that they retained a lot of the dialogue. Those exchanges between Joker and Batman
Some
about
of the dialogue
killing
was
each
literally
other,
right
ripped
off the
right
page.
from it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That was really awesome. The dialogue, but, you know, frankly, the dialogue would be nothing if not for the 2 lead characters delivering the dialogue. I mean, having Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill back in the saddles again to play both Batman and the Joker, respectively.
Right back to the animated series, eh?
I mean, some of that dialogue could have come off really cheesy if it wasn't in the mouths of seasoned professionals such as
Hamill
these 2 guys.
Especially shined in
God,
my opinion.
he
delivered some of those classic lines. This is a Joker origin story, mind you.
And he was creepy, along with some of the artwork. I mean, I don't know how many Buenos in a row I can list, but I mean, outside of the voices, the visible depictions of the characters, I wasn't as huge a fan of Batman.
Me neither. I was going to say that.
But frankly, I wasn't a huge fan of the way he's depicted in the comic either. He is depicted in a similar way. I mean, they got it pretty well as far as translating him the way they translated Joker. It's just that the Joker came off way more effectively menacing.
Yeah, he has so many interesting costume changes in this. There's a lot of bait and switch in the storytelling, which gives him the chance for it, which is kind of cool. And so, yeah,
the way they depict him with different types of eyes at different points. I mean, not that his eyes change, but just the lighting of the drawings, as it were, they change. And at one point, especially the sort of pivotal moment, it is very effective, in my opinion.
Indeed, yeah. And I actually thought the animation looked really good. It was brightly lit, and there were some very cool transitions they did from faces to faces in some of the scenes. The segues were just very well thought out and plotted, and I had a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Continuing on with the Bueno, even outside of the dialogue, the stick-to-itiveness to the source material was really good. The weird thing is, sticking to the source material sort of revealed how weak James Gordon's character was in this particular Bat story.
Yeah, he does get pretty...
I mean, he ends up strong.
He's worked over.
He ends up strong, but using Ray Wise as the voice, who played the Devil in the short-lived Reaper series, and he's been in numerous movies. He's a character actor that everyone would know from various different roles. He played Gordon, and since he was doing a lot of whimpering and whining, it wasn't it wasn't good to see. No, you're used to the
a little bit.
Yeah, well, you're used to the stronger Gordon, which you're supposed to have at the end.
Joker makes him
when he straightens up and tells Batman, take him in by the book.
Yeah.
Go by the book. I want him done. Brought in by the book. It's like you don't believe it. Based on, I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Yeah,
I just wasn't a fan of the Gordon depiction, which I guess slides into the MALO.
Into the MALO, yeah. It's a good segue. And so there was only one thing that was added in the original narrative as they were adapting it, or at least one thing that stuck out to me, and that was a musical sequence that I really did not like. And while I know Mark Hamill likes his show and dance and all this different shite,
he had a great musical number in, I think it was Arkham City or Arkham Knight. I'm not sure which it was.
So they were trying to recapture that.
They were trying to recapture that magic. It was a fantastic musical number.
Hamill for that too, right?
Yeah. Well, no, Conroy wasn't singing in either one.
Well, I know that, but their voices were used.
Oh yeah, both of them. Right? Yes, correct, absolutely. And in the little featurette we got ahead of the movie that Mark Hamill was talking about. That's coming in the but they mentioned that, but. The musical number was very out of place, and I was frankly concerned because it was at the moment in the book which is horrifying, where Gordon's going through this hall of screens where it's just basically pictures of his naked daughter being presented to him as she's bleeding from being shot by the Joker. Yeah. It's this ridiculously pivotal scene that sticks with everyone after reading this book.
They softened it.
And they saw the whole time I'm like, oh my god, are they not going to show the pictures? If they pull back and don't show the pictures, that's going to be a ridiculous choice.
Yep.
And they ended up saving it for about 3 to 5 seconds worth of the montage, and it's like, oh, come on.
A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
And I'm not saying this from a pervy standpoint. I'm saying because it wasn't as effective. I mean, it was effective having the pictures there nonetheless. It's just doing a whole musical montage ahead of time just, I suppose, took away from the effectiveness of it once the punch was finally delivered.
It didn't feel as terrible, and it is one of the most frightening and horrifying sequences of the entire story. So, that was the MALO for me, and I don't know, beyond that, I did really enjoy when I got to watch the Killing Joke, but this is my segue into the Feo, because we got 2 movies. The other movie we got was before the Killing Joke, and it was basically called Batgirl is All Grown Up, or something of that nature, because we're going to spoil things now.
Before we do this, I'm going to just, the way I phrased it is, this movie had, of all superhero movies I've ever seen, this had the what the fuckiest moment I've ever seen.
It's an R-rated movie, so
you can believe that if you want. It's not. It won't lessen the impact. It literally had that moment.
And I said of any Batman story, but he went further. You went further.
What the F is going on? We're like, what?
I started laughing because I was so shocked at what was transpiring.
It was so out of left field. Go for it. I'll let you do it.
Well, you see, this is the thing. They forewarned audiences, because I'm sure there was some, like, what the hell did Brian Azzarello do with this prologue? Because the nature of the prologue made sense. They wanted you to, first and foremost, know who Barbara Gordon is. She's Batgirl. She has a history with Batman as kind of like the equivalent of Robin, like a daughter, basically, you know? And so because of that, you understood why they wanted to flesh out her character and give her something to chew on beforehand. But it dragged way too long, and on top of that, it was so poorly written, so cliched from the dialogue to the tropes, and they even threw in some stuff that was just weird. And for me, the biggest turn was when you realized they were trying to tell an adult story, an R-rated story, yet in the worst possible way. And I'm going to let you break the news to people, who either want to know what this is about and have it spoiled, or if you've seen it already, you can totally nod your head and say, hell yeah, man, you guys are right spot on the money about this.
I've seen varying sort of responses to the movie on Facebook in the short amount of time, one day, frankly.
It just came out today, and we got to see
there were some people that saw it yesterday in the theatrical preview. We got to see it on technically the second day it was in theaters, but
it's VOD today, right?
This moment. Okay, so the prologue starts off like basically it's a Batgirl story, and it's a Batgirl trying to earn her velvet wings, as it were.
But acting like an idiot.
Acting a little bit, but not even so much. I mean, there's this criminal that sort of takes a shine to her, and she insists to herself and to Batman that despite this unhealthy obsession this criminal has with her, she can use it to sort of bust the criminal that's a little bit higher than him.
And she's lying to herself.
And she is, you know, and so it's so strange. Batman basically tells her to back off numerous times. She doesn't numerous times, and then eventually, and you know, she gets herself in a situation that isn't good, but they get out of it. I can't even remember the setup, but basically Batman, they have this intense...
She is tracked with the phone from site to site, and she's just so intrigued by this guy.
Yeah, she's like, following
she's very obviously going into a trap, and it's like,
clues,
where's the logic? You know you are being led into a trap. Why are you being so easily misled? Doing it because she liked the guy, and it was so lame.
Well, not only lame, but it's immediately negated when she gets dressed down by Batman.
Well, that's
after a fashion.
So, well, presumably Batman was trying to keep this guy away because maybe there's a thing. Oh man, Batman's the yoga instructor, guys.
Oh God, it's so ugly to even think about.
Yeah.
No, okay, so basically Batman gets mad at her. He's like, no, you're too close to this. You have to stop. And, you know, I didn't even think about it like that. Like, Batman was being jealous boyfriend.
I'm just thinking after the fact because of what happens.
Fudge, you might be right. Because if that's the motivation, then it makes me even more angry. That makes Batman way
Batman's
more
a pervert,
petty.
Guys.
And pervy than honestly, he ever has been in the past, because what happens? He tells Batgirl that she needs to stop chasing this criminal, and she gets angry and starts like whapping him on the chest and then like trying to punch him, and he stops, and she like jumps up and uses her legs around his head to flip him over to the ground,
which he pretty much lets her do.
Yeah, and gets over on top of him and like is angry, and she's like crying and in his face, and then she freaking leans down and kisses him.
Yeah, this is not Catwoman, mind you. This is his
Batgirl, Commissioner Gordon's daughter,
one of his best friends.
Batman puts his arms up like, oh, what do I do? And then his arms go around her, and then she strips off her cowl and then strips off the top of her costume, and the camera moves up to the sky like,
thankfully they didn't show
you know what's gonna happen.
Wink, wink.
I was disgusted.
I was literally nauseous, and people were so just taken aback. They were laughing in the theater. Lots of people, myself included. After the nausea subsided, I was mad, just like the Joker. And I was like, my mind has been warped at this point.
I'm trying to search myself.
It portrays the Batman character in a completely different light.
I'm trying to search myself and see, is this being sexist somehow, saying that she should only play the little girl role or anything? No, it's not, because they gave us no context for this Batgirl. They made her look exactly the same as Batgirl looked in the animated series when she was still Batgirl. They didn't age her up at all like she was sort of a more experienced Batgirl, or even sort of upped her to Batwoman, where you could have sort of tricked your own mind into thinking, oh, well, she's grown up, and okay, maybe there is a logical, maybe down the line, there is a logical leap to think that Batgirl and Batman might end up together, but I'm talking 7 to 10 years into the thing, and they did not give us
3 years,
that.
Right?
Yeah, they did not.
That at one point? No.
They did not give us that passage of time, and so it felt super weird.
It felt pervo, It really did, and it. Thankfully, the funny thing is, the reason I said that there's 2 separate movies is because there's a slight little wink in 2 moments the rest of the movie, but once we get to the Killing Joke, we see that initial scene with the rain, we're watching a different movie. And that was so ugly that we had this bait and switch. We had this bait and switch go down, and the entire tone changed, because the Batgirl was very, almost like Supergirl, whimsical and happy, and she's got love problems, and she's talking to her friends at school about it. And
that's the way Batgirl
and I'm not hating on it, but we were told we were getting Batman the Killing Joke. And that is so ugly that we were totally... Batman
the Killing Joke was like 35 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, and granted, it's a one-shot. It's a very short story, so I can understand the motivation behind it, but it was so ugly what they did with this. And even worse, when you first sit down to watch the movie, I'm not sure if this is the case, if it's supplemental on the DVD, but at the Fathom events that we attended, there was an interview, awesome interview actually, with Mark Hamill that preceded the feature. So insightful, so cool, but spoiled pretty much the whole story of Killing Joke. It was meant as supplemental. So if you had a Batman fan who's stoked for this, young or old, never read the story, they pretty much had the whole like arc of it spoiled for you about everything that happens, and so
the one thing
that was ugly for me. You have a Feo, man?
Oh my god! Well, I think I pretty much
what we've
harped on the
covered so
Feo,
far.
pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's glaring in this one.
I have to go back. I'm going to circle back to the good a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's going to be, since we're in spoiler territory, it'll make sense.
That's why I divided it up.
This is my personal copy of Batman: The Killing Joke, the super deluxe version.
Hardcover.
At the end,
lessons.
there's a bit from Brian Boland where he talks
the artist
about,
of the book.
Right, the artist of the book. He talks about what happens actually at the end of Killing Joke. He says
that last joke, which is so I was laughing out loud in the theater.
It's time I revealed what really happened at the end of The Killing Joke. As our protagonist stood there over the course of this last 2 pages, he basically explains that when they start laughing together at the Joker's final joke about the 2 inmates escaping, and obviously Batman is the first inmate that easily jumps across the gap and supposedly holds the flashlight up and says, "I can lead you across, just jump on the beam." And the inmate 2, aka Joker, says, "No way, you turn it off when I'm halfway across." And the Joker starts laughing, and then Batman starts laughing with him, and then you see Batman's arms go up to Joker's shoulders, and the camera pans down.
Yep.
And as the camera pans down and his arms go up, you hear them both laughing. But as soon as the camera pans away, the Joker stops laughing.
Yep,
but Batman continues laughing, and it is sudden. It doesn't fade away. It suddenly stops. Now,
very effective.
They did not have like any sound effect that says crack or anything like that. But what I think happened is, I think Batman reaches up and muffles the Joker's mouth to finally stop him laughing while Batman laughs, because Boland essentially says that Batman kills the Joker at the end of this. That's why Joker's laughing stops.
Yeah, it's the last story is what some people have theorized.
It's the killing joke. That's the whole reason it's called The Killing Joke. So it's cool that they got that across.
Yes,
I dig
and
that.
finally.
Absolutely. Hefty spoilers, obviously, at this point.
But we gave you guys forewarning.
Yeah, but man, that was cool to see. You know, seeing that brought to life was really interesting. And again, seeing the Joker brought to life in this way, having Mark Hamill play him one last time in what might be considered, except for possibly Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, this might be the most disturbing evil Joker that's been put to animation.
Yeah.
That one was pretty bad in the Return of the Joker.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it. So yeah, I guess we have beaten this to pieces, talked about how it has some redeeming moments like the story we expected to be watching, but I'm sure there's going to be cuts of just the Killing Joke floating around on the internet at some point, so I would recommend seeking that out, or fast forwarding through something. We were late to this film and there were audio troubles,
just in time.
And it was really funny that I was joking, hey, maybe if we miss the prologue, the movie will be good. That's pretty much, it wasn't a prologue, it was another film. So
yeah.
I can extend the grande gracias to Cecil. He's going to tell you guys briefly about the program we do together that covers all the scarific stuff that is beyond the comic book world.
Just really briefly, it's a horror variety show on YouTube, youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. Horror movie reviews, how-tos, comedy sketches, celebrity interviews, event coverage, all kinds of stuff. Check it out.
Yeah, loads of fun. And I've been Jaime En Fuego. Find me Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, be cool, let's interact. Always fun. And yeah, until the next coverage of the hottest entertainment with an edge, guys. Hasta luego, sin amigos, but let's make it sooner rather than later. Peace.
Cool. Got it in there.
Yes.